Amazing. So first up, we have Glenn. Give it up. Thank you. Ready? Set. Go.
G'day everyone, my name is Glenn Sarti and I'm a senior software developer at Puppet, and today I want to talk to you about sharing. The term CAMS was first coined by Damon Edwards and John Willis back in 2010, and the sharing is one of the 4 pillars. But I went back through all of the previous DevOps Days talks, and of about 1,500, only a handful were about sharing. In fact, the most sharing-focused talk I could find was by Patrick Dubois back in 2012, and the topic was: many DevOps talks relate to the CAMS acronym. The S for sharing is usually taken for granted and does not get much explanation. But in this talk, it'll be right in the center. Without sharing, there is no DevOps, and successful adoption is impossible. So today, I want to even that score slightly and answer the question of sharing what's in it for me by appealing to your selfish side. And strangely enough, the most selfish way to share is not to share with anyone at all, but instead, share with a rubber duck. Rubber ducking is a technique that as you share a problem or idea with your duck, it helps the solution become clearer. You start talking through a complex problem and bing, a light goes off and the answer just appears in front of you. There are many thoughts about why this works, but here's 2. First, your mouth is slower than your brain. When you start speaking to your duck, it forces you to slow down and process the information in depth. Second, you need to take into account what the duck knows, which is nothing. It forces you to think from another point of view and then see other solutions. So if rubber ducking is about speaking, what about writing? Now, while writing and speaking are very different tasks, they do share a common theme in storytelling. Now, I'm not talking about children's bedtime stories or agile user stories. I'm talking about telling your story, autobiographical storytelling. Dr. Sherry Hamby, who's a research professor of the South, says, "I've been surprised at the power of emotional autobiographical storytelling. This means writing about events and people that have mattered to you in your own life, not just describing the facts of your own life. Research shows that even brief exercises can have substantial impacts on psychological and physical health even months after." In particular, Dr. Hamby says that through this kind of storytelling, we can build our resilience to adversity. She and her research team found 4 benefits. Firstly, finding your voice. This means learning how to express yourself and how to think about what has happened in your life in a way that makes sense. It may appear that events in your life are random, but it doesn't help to think about them like that. Instead, when we write, we have a beginning, a middle, and an end. We can start to see how experiences, good and bad, have shaped us. Secondly, reaffirming your values. Just by writing your story, it can show where your focus is and what's important to you. Also, what you choose to leave out or minimize can show what is trivial to you. Thirdly, sharing your story. Writing your story is good, but sharing is an underappreciated aspect of storytelling. When you share your story and pass on your wisdom, you find that your words have a positive power on other people. And lastly, building resilience. Once you have found your voice, reaffirmed your values, and shared your story, it builds a sense of well-being, and which then builds resilience when adversity will surely next strike. Resilience is strengthened by recognizing that we are all experts in our own lives, and we all have something to share with others. So, how do you start writing stories then? Well, it's quite possible you're already doing this. If you have a blog, I'm sure you're writing stories that you want to tell that matter to you about problems that you have overcome. Or perhaps at a job you've written a post-mortem for an outage. While they tend to be less emotional, they are still autobiographical stories and they are still rooted in adversity. So to answer, sharing what's in it for me, solving my own problems, thinking from other people's perspectives, and increasing my resilience and mental health. Sounds great, doesn't it? Yes? Woo! So as soon as we move into open spaces and perhaps start sharing stories of our own, I'd like to leave you with a final thought from the poet James Russell Lowell. Not what we give, but what we share. For DevOps, without the sharer, will go nowhere. Thank you.
Fantastic job.